The Queen's authority and the Queen's blessing on what was happening was indispensable. It wasn't the same event. And isn't the same event, won't be the same event without her, although of course the King will, and already has impressed lots of people with the way that he's...
Everyone wanted an imprimatur on these events, and wasn't it wonderful the way the procession took in almost all the great memorials, all the way through, not just the cenotaph and the women at war, but up to Hyde Park Corner. There's the New Zealand War Memorial, the Australian War Memorial. I mean, every aspect of shared sacrifice, I think, has been recognised today through this exemplary procession.
I was really struck as well, Katie, by the way in which the procession, the initial procession, which arrived at the Abbey in silence, a sense of expectation but deep respect. The service itself really did underline lots of the themes that Her Majesty wanted to have underlined. She was, of course, a woman of strong faith.
She was.
It had informed lots of the decisions that she'd made in her life and the way that she'd lived her life.
I think you're absolutely right, and we saw the faith reflected in that service with some of her favourite hymns and readings that date back to the coronation. There was everything had been so carefully considered and thought out and punctuated with the most important things in her life: her faith, the armed forces, her family, her people. It's all there, and I think also that sense that yes, we have lost something very, very special to all of us. This is a testimony to that. But in all of this, as Robert says, the tradition and the history and the landmarks and everything that's wrapped into this is the promise of the new. It's the continuity. We've seen that in the past 11 days, extraordinary days, and how the new king has been welcomed. But we saw that in the procession with Prince George and Princess Charlotte. That promise of the future, that promise of what's next to come. And I think that's reassuring, particularly at the moment.
Yes, the presence of Princess Charlotte there, a reminder of some of the extraordinary changes that the late Queen made during her reign. I mean, it was only in 2011 she changed hundreds, thousands of years of male primogeniture, so that, you know, the line of succession has changed. All these little, that's so much. When historians look back on this reign, they'll see so many small ways in which, very quietly but very firmly, she completely transformed this institution. And I also love the way today that the procession, it wasn't just about recognising her. I mean, obviously, clearly it was, but in her way, when she organised it, she wanted to recognise others. I thought the way in which she placed the Victoria Cross and the George Cross holders right at the front of that procession, for example, that was so her. You know, the George Cross, the great decoration invented by her father at the height of the war. You know, all these little things. There's a lot of nods, I think, to her parents in that.
And to the Commonwealth, the Mounties. I mean, it was all there, down to the NHS workers and everyone that helped us through the pandemic.
Most recent recipients of the George Cross, of course, the NHS.
Last word then from us before we go to our colleagues at Windsor for the next phase of the day. And Katie, you first of all. It's impossible to start really assessing neatly and credibly this remarkable reign so early on. Distinguished authors both, it's a challenge to do something like that. Do you feel that today will have helped people maybe turn the page, to just realise that great change is happening and that they can take that on board? Is today the day when people will be helped in that direction?
I think so. I think this is the moment that completes 11 extraordinary days, and you could plan and rehearse and dress rehearse and do it all over again. You couldn't predict how the public were going to respond, what the mood would be. It's been phenomenal, but this is closure today, and I think back to what the Queen said in her very first broadcast when she was a little girl during the Blitz: all will be well, because it will.
Robert, is today the day when that happens? Because it's been 10 days of people really trying to come to terms with such a momentous change in public life and in personal lives.
I think what we've seen today, we have seen the embodiment of greatness from all the world leaders gathered to what we're seeing now, an entire nation coming out. This is greatness in our time.